welcome back to the 700 Club, Mark Lowry.
How you doing, Gordon?
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Have you with us today?
Good to be here. How y'all doing?
We're doing great.
Good.
We're doing great. Are you still remotely controlled?
That's what they tell me. Of course, I'm getting older now. I'm 38, so it's hard to... I have so many people ask me, or ask my friends if I'm like that all the time. I wouldn't have any friends if I was like that all the time, you know?
So this is a low-energy moment for you?
It's a low-energy moment. I'm getting old. You know you're getting old when your mother buys you a nose hair clipper for Christmas. That's how you know you're getting Found it under the fruited flavors. She always has this stocking every year, and it always has a box of those Lifesavers. And under that was a battery-operated nose hair clipper. And I said, "What is this for?" She said, "Use it."
Oh, mothers know what we really need.
How did you get started in all this, and I guess showbiz, but Christian showbiz?
Well, I started singing in churches, Baptist. I was raised in an independent, fundamental, Bible-believing, Bible-banging, foot-stomping, soul-winning, door-knocking, pew-jumping, devil-chasing, sin-hating, King James Version only Baptist church. Our preachers were not always right, but they were never in doubt.
King James Version?
Yeah, well, no, we didn't have that. No, it's King James, 1611, good enough for Paul, good enough for us. And
that's right, Paul had it.
That's right. But I started singing, and I noticed that people, when I'd be singing in these churches, would be counting ceiling tiles. And then when I talked, they'd listen. So I thought, I'll dance with who brung me, you know? I mean, if they're going to listen when I talk. All I wanted to do was communicate. I wanted to hear people laugh. I wanted people to realize that, you know, being a hyperactive person is not a curse, you know? I was on Ritalin when I was a kid. But I... you know, had a mom and dad who believed in me, and so, you know, that's what I like to do. I like to hear people laugh. I wrote that song, that lyric, in 1984 for Mary Did You Know. I was writing a musical for my church, actually just taking Christmas songs and then writing monologues for people to say between them, because I hadn't really written that much at the time. And I was thinking about Mary, you know, and what must have been going through her mind when she cradled Jesus in her arms, you know. I mean, that's amazing. But they say she was about 13. And all that must have been going through her mind, I just wondered if she knew what was ahead of her and knew what she was holding, you know, that the God who one morning before breakfast spoke the worlds into existence was now laying babbling, unintelligible baby noises in her arms. I mean, all that is so hard to believe, really. But I've chosen to believe it. You know, I'm a Baptist. We don't have many feelings, you know. I mean, we don't jump pews. We sleep in them. And so I haven't seen many miracles in my life, but I have chosen to believe it. It's just a choice for me. I have chosen to believe that, because it makes sense to me. When I was working in those little bitty churches and singing to those little bitty crowds, and I'd sleep on the preacher's couch, and I was developing these things. There were a lot of wonderful independent Baptist churches that let me come and hone my craft, you know, and develop those stories and make them work, and I would add jokes to them, and you know, because I knew, you see, Baptists won't, our independent Baptist churches don't usually clap. They do now more, but back then they wouldn't clap, they wouldn't shout, but they would laugh. And so I knew they were listening. And all I wanted them to do was pay attention, because the story that I tell is the important thing, not the jokes. A comedian tells 3 jokes, changes the subject, tells 3 more jokes. You watch Jay Leno, he'll never tell more than 3 jokes on one subject, because the 4th joke will always bomb. It's a rule. It will always bomb. And a comedian tells 3 jokes, changes it, well, I tell stories. Bill Cosby is kind of one of my heroes, because he's a storyteller. And there are jokes and, you know, little punchlines all through the story, but the story is what's important to me. So,
what happens to people when you tell that story?
Which story?
I've heard any one of your stories. I've heard you say that you get people laughing, and then when their mouths are open, you reach down and bring the cross to their heart.
I call it humor with a punch. I like it to go somewhere. I don't want just humor for humor's sake. I like that. I mean, I don't have anything against that, but I want people to leave my concerts with several things. I want them to leave liking their kids more, liking their parents more. I want them to leave liking themselves more, realizing that God likes us. He doesn't just love us. You know, there are a lot of people I love, I don't like. I go through Thanksgiving and Christmas too, you know. and if you know you got one in your family, you know, you'll cry at their funeral, but you don't want to go on vacation with them. You know who I'm talking about. And if nobody popped into your brain, you're probably it. But God likes us. I mean, God knows all about us. God knows all of our hang-ups, all of our faults and failures, and every time we've goofed and messed up, and He's still crazy about us. He'd rather die than live without us.
And for some reason, He wants to spend eternity with us.
Yeah, He wants to spend eternity with us. That's right. I wrote a song once called He Wants to Spend Eternity with Me, because it just dawned on me one day that He did. And I wrote a lot of songs when I was behind that wheel, driving down those interstates with my PA system in the trunk, getting to that next little Baptist church, and I'd be thinking about all these things that, and sometimes I'd get laughing so hard I'd pull the car off the side of the road and write it down. And it was a fun time back then. Now it's become this machine, you know, that needs to be fed a lot, which is, you know, just comes with the territory.